Mills fashions a kick back towards the wing for Lady! Left now, lines them up. It's coming back. Cox is the biggest man there.
G'day guys, welcome back to Red Time. Jarryd Barca here with Mason Cox back in the studio this week. Coxie, welcome. How's your week been?
It has been fantastic. Spent it up in the Gold Coast.
Yes.
A little bit of sunshine. It was nice to be up there. Got a big win too while we're up there. It was,
makes the long weekend better when you win.
It makes life a lot better.
Yeah.
It does. There's no doubt about that.
How's the build-up been, mate? Anzac Day this week.
Yeah, it's obviously it's circled on the calendar every year. It's an incredible and something that we take very seriously, and it's an honor to be a part of it, to be honest, as a club. And it's such an interesting week to be able to really dive into what it means, for people who have been affected by, family members that have served or, been a part of it. So it's such a cool thing to be able to give recognition to it and be able to be something, special on the day.
And a bit of news as well, Darcy Moore, the captain, not playing, an ear issue.
Yeah.
Bit different. You playing at full-back this week?
Oh, I don't think I'm playing full-back. I did see Darcy after the game, and he showed me a photo that someone had sent him, and he's got the bandage on his ear, and he's in a side-by-side of him and Trump whenever he had the bandage on his ear. We started laughing. But
very good.
Yeah, no, hopefully he's okay. But unfortunately he's not playing this week.
Who takes Peter Wright then? Big 2 metre Peter. He's back. He was clunked on him last week. I think he kicked 6 on his return. So it's a big job. I don't know. You guys can go a bit smaller. You can, Billy Frampton probably takes him. Just Charlie Dean's there in the VFL plugging away. A few options.
Billy Frampton, probably a bit of help with Jeremy Howe over the top. But I'd pick Billy Frampton from what I know. I'm not a coach by any means, but if I had to choose someone that was tall enough to cover him, it'd probably be Billy Frampton.
Fun fact, actually, on the footy pod that we did yesterday with champion artist Christian Jolly, he did give us a fun fact that since Billy Frampton got to the Pies, every game he's had at least 10 kicks in, Collingwood have one. So feed him the ball and
just say feed Billy Frampton the ball. The back
feed him
line.
the ball, get him to kick the
that.
footy.
I'll just pass that on to him.
unless I've just jinxed it, then maybe don't mention it.
Okay.
Plenty for us to get stuck into today, mate. We're going to talk potential play-in style tournaments for the AFL, whether that would work, and a bit of social media trolls and keyboard warriors, which have come up again in the wake of Lachie Neal's post last week.
Yeah.
But before we do get into those topics, we want to just stay on Anzac Day. Not so much the game itself or the day itself, but we want to talk about Anzac Guernseys. We like dissecting Guernseys on this podcast. We do, but we will get to the designs of the Guernseys. First, we want to talk about the ethics of Anzac Guernseys. It's obviously met with a lot of conjecture. Every single year I've noticed this in the public forums. There's a lot of debates about whether clubs should be selling their Guernseys. Some people find it a bit icky, for lack of a better term, to commercialise a day of sacrifice. Some people think it's okay. I'm on the okay side of it. I like the fact that clubs do this. I think there are pros and cons, and I do see both sides of it. So I'll give you my quick thoughts on why I am okay with it and why I like that clubs do this. I think it depends on the intention of the clubs. I think the Guernseys do raise good awareness. They can highlight different stories of specific battalions or symbols used on a design, can tell different stories and just educate people about the history of the day, which I think is really important. You've obviously got some proceeds of Guernsey sales going towards the RSL Anzac appeal and other causes, which is obviously a good thing. I'll refuse to see donations as a bad thing. And I just think when you see the visual designs on a Guernsey, it almost just reminds you about how important the day is. So that's what I think the pros are. That's why I'm okay with it. I get the other side of it about the commercialization of the merchandise and potential, profit motives that people think clubs do have. But as I said, it depends on the intention. If the intention's good, I think if the money goes to a good place, and as long as you don't lose sight of the importance and significance of the day, which I don't think clubs do, I'm okay with it. So I don't know, what do you personally feel with this topic?
I think it's about the same. Like, I know that so many of these jerseys, looking at them and stuff, like, they have names of people that have served in the past on them, and it's a great way to honor them in a situation like this. And I mean, like, personally with us, we have a guy who, through our jersey, and I'll tell the story I'm sure later, with the horseshoe, we had a meeting as a club today, and his family, his grandsons and stuff had sent, like, grandsons and granddaughters, whoever, came together and sent a letter into the club of how much it meant to them to have him and his story part of the Anzac jumper this year. And it's cool moments like that to be able to share that story on a bigger platform that is the AFL. And yes, like, any donation, like I said, is a good donation. We've got guys today in the city rattling tins, to sell pins for Anzac Day. There's so many things I think that clubs do to try to be able to raise funds for, the Anzac appeal. And, any opportunity to give more money to that is amazing. Like the RSL obviously gives the proceeds to it. Like, the jersey sales that we have, proceeds go to that also. And, I think it's cool. Like it's a great opportunity on a platform that people are interested in to be able to show exactly kind of how the club's been intertwined with Anzacs or, a different kind of look that people are interested in to be able to really honor them.
Yeah, I agree. I think the idea of, donating those proceeds, it's donations that may not have happened otherwise if it wasn't for selling these Guernseys. Yeah. So I am seeing this as a good thing. But let's have a look at the Guernseys and the designs themselves. We've already had a look at them.
Yes.
Actually, we've picked out our favourites. I think they're all good in their own way. They all tell good stories, as I said. Yeah. But there are some that
Imagine if we said they weren't. No, that'd be dreadful. We'd be terrible humans. Oh, yeah, we do like what, top 3? Should we go to the top 3?
Go your 3 favourite.
3 favourites.
Yeah, I've got honourable mentions because I actually like all of them. I'm towing the PR line there, but
I'll start my honourable mention and I'll work my way up. So
go for it.
Gold Coast, we've seen Gold Coast, a lot of poppies on there.
It's a lot of red. It's real red.
It is a lot of red. Don't get me wrong. I do think that. And I'll get into this bit of the advertisements on the jerseys. I think maybe as a sponsor of the club, maybe just take a week off.
Sponsors are another thing that make people feel uncomfortable with this as well.
Yeah, and I think like put it on the back of the jersey. I think the front of the jersey is pretty cool to have it, really clean and fresh with the poppies and stuff. That's really neat. So Gold Coast, honorable mention. Melbourne, I've got a bit of a... they put fighter jets on the front of it, and all I thought was, man, Essendon should have done this. I was it was a perfect opportunity to have, fighter jets as part of their jersey, being obviously the symbol of the Bombers there. But number one I had was actually the Western Bulldogs. I thought it looked really cool. So clean, so fresh. You can see it and how it symbolizes it, and also is intertwined with the club kind of, colors in their original jersey. So I want to say probably number one is going to be the Western Bulldogs for me. Yeah. The field as a stripe was pretty cool, and got to give respect to them. So that's mine. What do you got?
They've got the Flanders field in the red hoop that they have, and in the white hoop they've got the honour roll of the past and current players who have served. So I reckon the Bulldogs have absolutely nailed it this year. What about the Pies?
I mean, I can't. I think you'll probably say the Pies because
you're not
biased. I
didn't want to be biased. Well, they're my number 2. Bulldogs was number 1. I've got Collingwood at number 2. I think it's a really great story.
It's a great story.
Share that one.
Incredible
quickly,
story. Yeah.
For those that don't know.
So there's a horseshoe on the front of it, which is kind of symbolizing of a horseshoe that was actually given to, I want to say it was in 1917. There was one of our players was actually fighting in the war over in France, I want to say it was, and sent back a letter with this horseshoe as a bit of a good luck charm for the club. And the club got it in the week of the grand final, going to play Fitzroy, and every kind of player passed it around, touched it as a bit of like a good luck charm, and it was nailed on the wall before they went out. So we still have that horseshoe. Like I saw it today, and it was kind of obviously part of this kind of meeting we had. And the thing's over 100 years old. It's pretty cool. So it's amazing to be able to kind of tell that story and show kind of, I think, how much Collingwood Football Club and other football clubs and stuff still mean so much to people that are serving, and how connected to community they are, and things like that. For a club who has players overseas fighting, to still be thinking about them, whenever in those situations of life or death is pretty incredible, to be honest. So to have that horseshoe as a bit of a good luck charm is pretty cool, and to still have it around after all these years is pretty amazing. And intertwining that into the actual jersey is pretty cool. Yeah,
I like the subtlety of the letters that he wrote to accompany that horseshoe as well, being used inside the stripes of the design as well. You can hardly see it, but it's that small detail that I reckon adds a lot to this design. A lot of work. So that's one of my favourites. The Dogs, as I said, I think St Kilda's is clean.
Yeah, agreed.
So I think they're 2 from 2.
2 from 2.
Yeah, setting some high standards with their Guernseys. Okay. See if they can hit a trifecta with the Indigenous Guernsey later in the year, because I think they're setting some.
Do we
high
give them
standards.
a trophy of some sort? Do we give them?
I don't know. What should we do?
Is it like a gather round jersey where it's got all of them
buy
mixed
a
in?
Saints if they nail the Indigenous design, we'll buy a St Kilda jersey. We'll hang it up here just out of respect.
I'll wear it for the pod.
I just want to give an honourable mention, as I said, to Fremantle. So this is their Len Hall tribute game this year, which they've held every year since 1996, except for the COVID year. But this is the first time they've won a specially designed Guernsey for it. If you don't know the story about Len Hall, I encourage anyone to look it up. It's on the Freo website. Have a read of it. So they've got the emu feathers instead of the chevrons, and a nice message written on their collars as well. So as I said, look up that story because it's an awesome one. It's an example of what these designs can do, as I said. So I'd say they're the best.
I think they're the cleanest. I would say the cleanest.
yeah.
It reminds me of that Sydney. We talked about the Sydney Swans.
Less is more.
Last one. Less is more.
Yeah.
Less
Basic
is
is
more
better.
sometimes.
Basic
Yes,
is better. So
agreed.
they've absolutely nailed it. Mate, have you been watching the NBA playoffs?
I have. Not a ton, but I have. It is
Okay.
tough with training and stuff to be able to do this during the day, but a lot of it's catch-up stuff. So I'm not technically watching it live, but
Yes.
I'm watching a lot of the catch-up. Yes.
Well, this topic is spoken about every year ad nauseum. Do you think the AFL should have its own wild card or play-in system leading into the finals?
I think the system here is very unique. Whenever I came here, the whole top 4 and then the top 8, obviously with that and the double chance, like I'd never heard of anything like that before. So it was very unique to what AFL kind of brings to the table. But I think with these things, and I've said this and I'll say it a million times over, when there's money to be made, the AFL will make it. And in this opportunity,
They love cash.
They are going to make a playoff round at some point. I think it'll be closer to whenever we get 20 teams. Yes, 20 teams, not 19, 20 teams. Because there'll be more to be able to choose from. And I think what will happen is there'll be more games in the season. The AFL will find some more cash in there. CBA gets expanded. More money goes into the game. More eyes to watch more games. So I think eventually it will get there in the next probably 2 to 3 years. I don't think it'll happen. But I kind of like it. I kind of like the idea. It's Gather Round was a unique idea that's now worked out very well, and they're seeing the successes of that. So I think they're going to keep trialing out these new kind of ideas, and if it fails, in over 2 years they'll stop it. But I think since the last one was such a raging success, they're probably going, "Ooh, what's next? What are we going to do next that reinvents the game?"
Do you think it will reward mediocrity though? I think that's the concern that people have with, just say, I don't know what the structure would be, say it's you expand it out to 10 and there is that sort of playing system that the NBA has 7v10, 8v9, that sort of thing. Is that too many teams to reward in an 18-team league? I know you said Tassie will come in eventually. Maybe it's a thing when there's 20 teams in the comp.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's not really too many teams I feel like that are throwing out like games at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Like I don't see too many people that are, just not caring and not playing. Like in the NBA, you see it.
Well,
like in the NBA, it is very obvious teams are
Of
giving
course.
up very quickly. Like I don't feel like the AFL has that issue.
Yeah.
Does it reward mediocrity to a certain level, I guess you could say? But every year you kind of look at that, that 8, 9, 7, 10 spot, and you're going, there's only maybe a game within each other, or sometimes it comes to points.
It adds more meaning later in the season when there are those sort of games. The team needs to qualify for the top 10 instead of the top 8, and they actually have a chance of it. If they're 2 games out of the 8 with 1 week to go, they know they can't make finals in its current iteration. Well, then maybe they can if you do expand it out.
But that's 7 through 10 is usually a game or 2, and then maybe from like 11 down is like a fair chunk of like 3 or 4 game difference.
Yeah,
I feel like every year. So it'd be kind of an interesting one with those teams that are in that kind of mix around the 8 actually have to play to actually get into playoffs. I like it. Yeah, is it kind of, I don't know. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. Is it? Yeah. Is it going to be hard for a team that's, finishes 6th or whatever, and you're 7th, and you're having to play it?
Well, that's the thing. Do the top 6 get a week off and not just the top 4?
Well, the schedule is going to be a whole other nightmare for
Or do you
that.
just
Don't
do a
get me
top
wrong.
4 and then the 5 and 6 is the play-in?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
I see both sides of it.
But I think it'll happen once we get to 20 teams or once Tassie comes in. They'll definitely look at it a lot more seriously in that sense. And it's a possibility, though. It's a higher probability, I would say.
I see merit in the idea, but only because I think that the AFL currently has a really unfair and uneven fixture. For a league that prides itself on equalisation, I don't think it has it. I'm going to say. I've said this for a long time.
There's a whack. There we go.
I'll explain. I've explained it before, but I'll say it again.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Fresh for red time. The fixture's not fair. If Team A is playing against Brisbane and Geelong twice, and Team B is playing against...
Go ahead.
No disrespect.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
no disrespect to North and West Coast who are at the bottom of the ladder.
Wow.
Who had the easier fixture? Yeah,
no, I totally agree.
It's
I don't remember the last time I played North Melbourne twice in the season. So
sometimes it's just not hard to admit the truth. The fixture's uneven. And my solution would be to fix, instead of having the wild card around, because I do think there are maybe some teams, we've seen some big margins in elimination finals, but at times you can put that down to a team scraping into the finals because of an easier draw than a team that finished 9th or 10th who had a tougher draw.
Yeah.
That's why I think the idea has merit. But I want to focus on the actual fixture that we have right now. Instead of introducing play-in or wild card, I'll just fix the fixture. Because right now you've got, 23 or 24 games in the season. Yep. But the way the AFL works out your double up matches is based on last year's ladder.
Yep.
I think that's completely wrong.
Yeah, okay.
I know why they do it. but I just don't think it works. I think the only step towards equity in the fixture is to play everyone once or everyone twice. You're never going to get twice. The season will go for 87 weeks.
I'd like to have holidays at some point, mate.
That's it. You got leave to take.
Yeah.
Once won't happen because they want as many games as possible. There's obviously TV rights and things like that. And we just spoke before about how the AFL loves their coin. So I would say if you want to keep the same structure of 23, 24 games, play everyone once. You already have a floating fixture. We have that this year as well, where the times aren't set yet. Play everyone once, and then work out your double up matches based on the ladder after you've played everyone once. Don't base it off of last year's ladder.
Yep.
So the weighted system that we already use, you use that, but you base it on this year's ladder. So it's 1 through 6, 7 through 12, 13 through 18 are the 3 subgroups of 6 teams.
Yeah.
And one team in every group will play 2 or 3 teams from that same group twice.
Yeah.
And one team from the other brackets.
I feel like we need a diagram here.
Is this,
I need a big diagram to figure out where things are going. I'm like,
you know what I'm saying, though?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I know it works. I know that you agree with me.
Hangover, and he's got all the different mathematician stuff going all over his head.
That's me, yeah. Maybe we should get something going behind here. But
I agree.
I know
think,
you're a player.
You got to play I think you have to play your rivals twice. Because I think
there can be an extra rivalry game, gather around.
I think there should be a rivalry round, if I'm being honest with you. I think that would be a really cool thing.
Yeah.
And have like the rivalries of each city all on the same weekend. I think that'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Call me crazy. I don't know. AFL also happy to hire me and sort it out.
Andrew Dillon, Laura Kane, are you
There's
listening?
a price for everything.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know. I think the play-in sort of works for the NBA. They work.
Yeah.
They have conferences. You think of the EPL play everyone twice. They don't have a final system, so it's just whoever finishes on top wins the title. The NFL has, you can win a division title, you can win a conference championship before the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I get why their playoff structure works the way it is. You can have a strong team that is buried within a really tough division, so I get why it works for them. I don't know if it will for the AFL. Maybe it will, and you're probably right. It is going to happen. When it is the question. But I would say if the AFL is going to fix anything, it needs to be the fixture instead of bringing in something else.
Love that.
Big,
It's a big statement by you. It's a big statement. I love it.
Lachie Neale, did you see his post last week?
Actually, I did. Yes, I did.
I'm going to read the quote and then we'll
read it. Okay,
we'll get to it as well.
It was, it was rough.
It's pretty damning that this is still happening, to be honest. But this is what he posted after last week's game. So he said, people hiding behind keyboards to attack players are the biggest stain on society. It's getting beyond a joke now. The things I've seen are some of the most horrific messages I've ever seen. It's a game of footy. Grow the F up. Cowards, put your face and name to your words. So we had Josh Dunkley on the footy podcast a few years ago when he was still down here playing for the Doggies. And he spoke openly about the DMs and social media trolls that he's dealt with, that he's experienced as well. But the issues still persist. We see it every single year. Players come out and try and highlight these issues, but they're persevering with it. It's still happening. How bad is it as an athlete?
I got punched in the face by Roy Law, and I had so many messages saying I'm best on ground for beating literally trying to concuss me. So it's sad. It really is sad, and it's the I think it's the big negative of social media is it gives everyone a voice, and there can be a beauty to that, and there can also be a dark side to that, which is people that want to use it as a negative platform to be able to try to affect players in that sense. Like, I don't even know what Lachie Neale was sent. I can imagine it was pretty bad for him to want to react like that. And I think the responsibility at the base of this whole thing actually lies with the social media platforms. Yeah. Like, if they have the ability to allow people users to be able to censor words to make sure that if someone, let's say writes a comment and says, the F word in there, they can censor that and say that comment is not showed to you. Yeah. I think that if they're able to do that, they should be able to do that on a mass scale. They should be able to have a list of words or a list of people that have had issues in the past and they are, banned or suspended from the platform for X amount of time. And it's not just, and you talk about these people who have fake accounts. Well, whenever you create a fake account, it still comes from the same device, or it still comes from someone who has the same email or whatever it is. Don't tell me that these big corporations, who are some of the biggest in the world, don't have the ability to be able to figure out who's making multiple accounts and based on where they're located, whatever it is. They have so much data on us based on us. There is a million different ways to be able to sort this, but they just refuse to actually take credit for it. and they refuse to take the responsibility, and they push it on other people and say, well, it's not our fault. We just want it to be a free speech platform, which I'm all for, don't get me wrong. But I think there's a way to be able to restrict it to better everyone that's actually using their platform in a positive way.
Yeah. What's the toll like on an athlete when you do experience it? I mean, some players I'm sure can just brush it aside, but obviously you don't know how damning these messages can be. So there's some that wouldn't take it too well. You think of mental health, pressure on your performances, you look at family impact as well.
Perhaps. Well, my parents have a Google alert out for my name. Like, I'm sure they see it. Like, I'll get a message from my parents just out of the blue asking if I'm okay. And I go, well, what have you read? Yeah. So it's not just the player. It's everyone else that I guess is associated with them. And I mean, I've seen my fair share over the years, don't get me wrong. I think earlier in my career probably affected me a bit more just because I didn't have the understanding of the support network and everything else to be able to handle that, or I guess probably the maturity to just jump off social media and just be able to tune it out that I do as an adult. But I think it's more for these 18-year-old kids, which, I mean, you walk into any locker room, you'll see how much time they spend on social media and their phones and how many comments and things they read and things they see and everything else that's through the internet. It's damning. And it's like and you realize just how much their life is entwined by that now. And I think that's kind of where you probably have to be able, as a club, to be able to put together kind of processes where if something like this does happen, you can actually have things in place to be able to support that player.
Do clubs not have a process already if something like this happens, or does the AFL step in at all?
I mean, you look at, but the thing is like, right, so if you post something as a club about someone and then there's kind of negative comments about that player that's, posted, it's like, what are they supposed to go through the 1,000 comments to see which ones are good and bad and be able to, like, we don't have the manpower or the person power to be able to do that. So it's a tough gig. I mean, there's no perfect answer, I would say. Like I said, I think a lot of the responsibility falls on the platforms, but yeah, like as a player, you definitely see it. If anyone's on social media and is active on it, like you definitely see comments that are said about you or your friends or your other teammates and things like that. And most clubs will have, psychologists and stuff to try to help out. But I don't think there's a ton of probably media training that the young kids probably have to be able to handle it. And it's tough to be able to totally shut these things off that are so prevalent in all their friends' lives and their families' lives and their life. And it's the way we all stay connected nowadays. Yeah. And to just be able to fully just jump off that, I think is very hard for a lot of kids, especially now.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think there's always room for opinion and free speech, but it's also really easy to not be a jerk on social media.
Yeah. There's a line. There's a line for sure. And I think there's certain words and statements and stuff that can be censored.
Yeah. That triggers something to block it.
For sure.
Just staying on the topic of fan behaviour very quickly, Alir was seen in an incident on the weekend. So a young fella in the stands, I'm sure you've seen it. It was he's copped a 2-year ban from the SCG for obviously throwing something. I think it's harsh, but we don't need to talk about the punishment that was handed down. Do you have a safety concern when you are out there?
Oh man, I remember.
I mean, that one wasn't as malicious. Yeah, I don't think it was that sinister.
But at what point do you draw the line though? It's like, it has to be a zero tolerance policy, and that's the way I look at it. I mean, whenever I first came here, I remember I played my first VFL game or inter-squad game, and the fans coming out onto the field scared the living shit out of me. Like it was just one of those things where I'm going, you can bet on this game. Yeah. Like who's to say that this person that I don't know that's coming up to me and standing right next to me while I'm in the middle of my job, like middle of trying to perform at the highest level that I possibly can, is like standing next to me and has access to me. I felt super uncomfortable, and like I don't think anyone would ever do that, but I think over the years you're going to see a lot more people. I think a lot more, I guess, like kind of take on security is going to be a lot heavier. You look at what happened in the MCG, the Collingwood-Carlton match.
Well, they've already ramped up the security. The lines are massive right now. And they should be.
And it's only going to get worse. And things like this only intensify that view. Yeah. And I'm actually for it because I think like you should be able to go to work and not be, attacked, or shouldn't have to like deal with these kind of things. Like any other workplace, you're not dealing with it. Why is it different for us?
People then bring up the Buddy 1000 goals that he kicked, right? And the tradition of fans running onto the field. And we celebrate something like that. That obviously comes with
That's a celebratory
I know that's a positive thing. I don't want to turn that into a negative because I don't think it is. But it's just interesting how that is something that you allow.
I think that's part of tradition. I think, and like that was such a cool moment. I think if you talk to Buddy, like don't get me wrong, he got absolutely mobbed. Like, can you imagine being him trying to get out of there? They got literally teammates that got kicked out and like ended up walking around the SEG.
It was just like inching his feet like centimeter by centimeter towards the
you just got security just saying, I got no chance here. Just no. I will say this at the Gabba. I want to say this is quite funny. We were walking into the Gabba and I saw some security guards. They had full boots on. Full cleats.
Yeah, right.
Like full boots on. I was like,
So
Gabba's taking it serious,
ready.
man. Like Gabba's like, hey man, I'm ready.
They wanted a streaker that day.
100%. They were prepped. They were primed for it. I was like, I kind of gave credit to the guy. I said, boots today. You playing? He's like, it's always got to be ready.
Yeah. How'd you go in the change rooms with the 205 centimeter
so
limit?
bad. 205 centimeters, I think, is the clearance. I'm 212. So, my back was sore, I think, before we even started the game.
Right.
Yeah, the Gab is an interesting place, but the Olympics are going to be somewhere else, which is exciting. So, the Gabba, won't be there for long. So you got to enjoy it while it's around. Good deck, though.
Good deck?
Great deck. Yeah. At the moment, I'm not going to speak for it in 10 weeks, but
yeah,
at the moment, it was very nice.
We'll keep our eye on it. Have you noticed how tight the ladder is, by the way?
Yeah. Yes. Yes is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It's great for the comp.
Great for the game. And there's a lot of teams that are non-Melbourne teams going well at the moment.
Yeah, a lot of teams. Wow.
Sydney teams are going well. Like,
I was going to say
Gold Coast
intersect
is
clubs.
going well. Brisbane's going well.
Yeah.
Adelaide's, I think they're going pretty decent. I think it's great for the game. I think it's what the AFL wants. And it's the whole, reason why we have this system in place to try to make the ladder as even as possible.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because I wanted to tell you I don't think you should be surprised.
Oh, we're getting into love this. Don't be surprised segment.
If we see multiple changes to the top 8 from here, which is obvious because it's only round 6.
Yeah.
But I did have a look through AFL tables.
Who's your biggest slider and who's your biggest person? Team that jumps.
I'll get there.
Yes.
Just give me 1 second.
Love this.
There has been at least 2 or 3 changes from round 6 to the top 8 every season since 2016, which is the only time this century the top 8 was already set by this stage. I actually looked through into like the 1980s. That's how much I looked.
Love the history.
It still hadn't happened.
Really?
Like 2016 is the only time in like the last 40 or 50 years that the top 8 was locked in by round 6. I couldn't be stuffed looking any further than that. So it's probably even more.
Okay.
But just expect a few changes. And I reckon I still like Carlton and I still like Fremantle. And I think they're 2 in the bottom 10 that I reckon can rise if teams aren't careful. I think they've got very reasonable fixtures, which we've already touched on. And I think at their best, they're both still very, very good teams that shouldn't be taken lightly.
What's the most important thing for them to do to be successful?
Kick goals and win games of footy.
Yeah, it would help if you had your best key forward out there, wouldn't it?
He
comes back. He might come back this week, I think. I'm not sure.
Potentially.
Concussion protocol. I can't remember how many days he's been out. But I'll do mine. Don't be surprised if Nick Dacos, we love this name. It's a bit of a controversial name, I guess.
Controversial?
Not controversial, but I guess like a hot topic name is probably the best way to put it. I wouldn't say polarizing. I think everyone knows he's a good player. Nick Dacos is the next captain for Collingwood Football Club.
Big call. Well, he's stepping in this week, isn't he?
I'm not sure if it's public yet.
It's public.
But I was like, wink, wink. Yeah. He might be.
There's a reason why I know it.
No, he is stepping up as captain this week, which is pretty cool.
Big news. So Bruzzy stepped in a couple of years ago when Darcy went down, I think, but they've given the nod to Nicky D.
Nicky D. So on a big day, Anzac Day. So his pre-game speech, he'll be practicing now, trying to figure out what he's going to say. Is he more like a serious guy, or is he going to try and crack a joke and lighten things up? No, I think he'll be serious. I think he's obviously knows how important the occasion is.
Yeah.
I think he would be loving and basking in this opportunity for him, as he should. And I think he'll probably just keep it simple, just as a first kind of speech in front of the group, kind of in that scenario as captain.
Yeah.
Keep it simple to like kind of what the game plan is, and just say, look, let's have some fun here.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing. But no, I'm excited for him. It's a great opportunity, and a lot of people don't see kind of his leadership behind the scenes probably as much because they look at Pendles and they look at some of the older guys. But
I was going to say on the field we can see from afar the type of leader he is with his performances, but off the field, what kind of leader do you think he is? What are his attributes off the field? Yeah,
I mean, he speaks up in meetings, he helps run meetings and stuff like that, and you see kind of how much work he puts in, not just in his skill stuff, but understanding the game plan and the roles and everyone else around him to try to help other people too. So it's a credit to him, and it's something as player that's not in the leadership group and probably won't be ever in his life. You see kind of how these people, act and how they kind of, step up in those times of stress and, when the club's going well or not going well, you look to those people for a bit of guidance, and he's always been one now that's really stepping into that role.
Yep. Mate, that's nearly been half an hour. I think that's us done.
Oh, we're going done.
Strong,
okay.
Strong out.
Yeah. I love that.
Strong out.
Yeah, it's good. I think that. I'm excited for the reveal of the Anzac jumpers this week.
Yeah.
I just want to see some boys running around.
They're going to look good.
They're going to look
good.
fresh.
Yeah.
Fresh for sure.
Yeah. We're going to dissect more Guernseys throughout the year. So stay tuned for that, everyone.
See if St Kilda gets the triple
We're
threat.
going to hang one up.
The triple threat.
They're on a hat trick.
Hat trick.
Yeah, so we'll see what they do.
Wait
High expectations for the Saints.
Wait and see.
Thanks for coming in. Enjoy this week as well. Go well. To everyone at home, thanks for listening or watching. Enjoy the footy, and we'll speak to you next time.